Board of Education meeting is now called to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. McConnell, will you please lead us? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. McKenna. Okay, we will start with our presenting school this evening. Superintendent Walker, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my distinct honor to introduce the Honorable Shadman Spilsky, who has so many titles in this district. We can't even fit it on one side of the business card because of all the responsibilities, but because he's presented to us earlier this year in his role as the district athletic director with our athletic update. Tonight he joins us to talk about another area of expertise relative to his management of the Center for Innovation. And with that, I hand it over to the very capable Mr. Spilsky.
Thank you.
Wow, this could be a heck of a presentation.
Hey, Shad, that's enough time to get forgiving anyone. So don't let us down.
Thank you for having me tonight. I will try to keep it somewhat short compared to the one in August. So I'm trying to get you out here soon. There's a lot of my doctors.
You said that before.
I have to. Jen doesn't believe me either. So.
Yes, I was going to say.
So we're going to have some goals tonight. One for our virtual program. As you can see, goal 1.2.D. 100% free take virtual courses through LCS passing grade. So just kind of a recap. A lot of this information is stuff that you guys have been exposed to before. Just sort of kind of give you a rundown of what our virtual program is and what it's not. So we have a lot of different pieces and moving pieces within the virtual program. So we have our pure virtual, which is any K-12 student who's taking 3 or more online classes. And that's been the way it's been for a long time. How it's calculated for counting. So we have a great number of students, and you'll see here in a minute, that are taking that. So to be a virtual student, you have to be taking core classes. So the 4 core English, math, science, and social studies. And then some electives within there to what teacher will really great full-time LV student. We have our peer virtual partnership, which is any student who's taking 2 to 5 classes with our online vendors. Those classes are the elective classes. Those are music, world language, PE, computer science, some of those fun classes that aren't necessarily core. They're the core classes from their home, and their parents are educating them through those things. They're not purposing that, or they're not going to investigate the core pieces. Then we have our onesie twosies. We have a lot more of these in the high school than we do at our middle school level. So these are students who are full-time students that are face-to-face, but maybe want to take a virtual class or something where they're scheduled. They want to take something that doesn't offer at the high school or the middle school. So students enrolled in this are 1 or 2. They're still considered face-to-face. They're considered full-time virtual students. And they have a teacher over at the high school or with the middle school who is their kind of contact teacher that they check in on a daily basis to get attendance taken. And that teacher is overseeing the virtual classes, usually through Pearson, private programs. Then the last piece is our optional learning experiences, our OLEs. So kind of back to the LVP courses. Those elective classes, sometimes Sean Brees, the partnership, has done a great job of partnering with other community members, community organizations. So we work with the Rec Center, we work with the SBA, karate, we work with music vendors, we work with a lot of different people. And if a kid is taking a virtual class, so if a kid's taking PE, but they want to go and do a 12-week lesson over at the Rec Center, want to take some lessons, that kid can then go do that. The district pays the cost for kids to go do that because they're taking a virtual course through us, and they get a 12-week lesson of swim over at the Rec Center or karate. The kid's taking music, and once 30-minute guitar lesson on Wednesdays, we bring in vendors over to the partnership over at Crampton, and that student then gets to learn how to play guitar on our dime because they're taking virtual classes with us. So that's open to truly any student doing that throughout the entire district. So kind of a great advantage for some of those families who want to be exposed to some of those things we get. Maybe can't afford a membership to the Rec Center, or can't do something like that, to where we provide that opportunity for them to do that. So kind of this year, just to have an idea of where we're at this year with staffing out there, We have 3 certified teachers that do our K-5 curriculum. We have 4 certified teachers who do our 6 through 12. We have 2 certified teachers that are in special ed. And we also provide a lot of those other services that we've seen over the years in some of our students need: speech, social work, teacher consultants, partnership. So a lot of our programs out there, they take place kind of on 2 different phases. The partnership, we have a Monday, Thursday program, and a Tuesday, Friday program. So those kids who are taking those 4 classes, if they're on the Monday, Thursday program, they're coming in and getting their projects and having, what we used to call community experts or mentors helping them through that. It's usually parents who are really interested in math, really interested in science, and they're helping kids just work through the kind of the big project pieces of that. We have our mentor teachers that are out of the partnership, our certified teachers who are out there to answer any questions when it comes to true content and that kind of stuff, chatting with them on a daily basis. And then kind of the staff training stuff we're doing. So our PD for our virtual teachers is a little bit different than what we do for PD for our gen ed teachers, because some of the stuff we do gen businesses pertain to online learning. So this year they work together between Katie Edwards and Susan Wheeler, who are department chairs out there, and helping create PD for them. This year they're doing a book study around Teacher's Guide to Online Learning. It's a great book. They started, I think, on chapter 2 of this book, but it's really teaching them how to access technology to help kids, but also to help parents in helping kids when they're at home. Because that's the one thing that we've seen a lot over the last 2 years with COVID, is that our parents have to be very involved in how the education happens. Because if the kids are not coming into the partnership, a lot of that stuff's happening at home, and you have very little access to them. We work with our mentors and that kind of stuff. And then last year, Katie worked really hard on it. Talk a little bit about it, but we went from a paper copy, and I think I talked about this last year. I would sit in a room for a number of days and read over every mentor log. So during Count Month, which starts today, for our virtual people, in traditional buildings, the goal over the next 10 days is that every kid shows up. Well, during the online version of it, it's over the next 4 weeks. So our mentors have to have a 1-2-way conversation with kids on a weekly basis over the next 4 weeks for us to get full FTE for those kids. So what Katie, along with the feedback from a lot of the virtual teachers last year, did is that they went through and said, what can we do to make this a better process for us? So Katie put together an online form. It's a Google form, and every kid, for every teacher, is listed in the tab down below. We turned this in last year to our auditor, who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we had one from this version where before I would sit in a room and read every single one hand copy, and then when they made a mistake, I would send it back to them and say, go correct it. If they didn't correct it, I would keep sending them back and back and back. And it's a very time-consuming work. This now, I can check it on a weekly basis. We have checks and balances where myself or Michonne or Jan or Lori can go through and check off on a weekly basis where that kid is. We initial it so that it's live and up to date for those teachers. And it's been a great process, so we continue to do that and kind of tweak it to what our needs are right now. It's a really great process in the sense that she has created 2 different forms, one for non-count and one for count, so teachers can't make some of the mistakes that we've seen in the past. The dates that they give the teachers, for with the kids, that you can only select the next 7 days for this first week. We've had to compensate before where the teachers put down the wrong date. They put down like next Wednesday, which should be Monday or something, just the wrong day of the weekend. So a really great process. And our auditor has been very happy with how that looks, and has actually used that template for other districts in the county and saying this is how we should be doing this around the entire Woodbury County. So, as we have said for the last going on my 9th year, I think Mary sent a picture the other day. I think it's celebrating the 8th year. We're in year 9 now. We are the district of choices. You can see all of our vendors. We have a lot of options. Edison Learning we brought in last year for our 9-12. It's kind of a hands-on, project-based learning. So if any of our kids that are out of the partnership in the 2-day program, that's the program they're in. Pearson Connects us we use throughout the entire district. If your kid is taking a Wednesday, Tuesday class at the high school online class, they're usually taking the Pearson course. Kids over at communities, we'll talk about here in a minute, are taking Pearson courses. Calvert is a K program. They've discontinued a lot of their 6-8 programming, so we moved Edison into that 6-8 piece of it. Lincoln Learning is one that we're kind of phasing out because we still have new families signing up for that. And Odysseyware is one that we use for kids who have struggled with maybe in the Pearson model and need something different. E-Dynamics is really electives only. That's where a lot of our elective classes. And then one that we brought on this year that we're piloting is Book Shark. And that's a program where we're going to replace that with Calvert kind of over the next few years. So we have a few families in that this year. I talked to them last week. They are because it gives them a lot of resources, a lot of books that the kids are actually taking home that they can consume and actually have their hand in their reading. So as we look at our enrollment, you can see in 2020 we had a lot of kids. That's the pandemic, right? Last year we were at 353. Now we're about 325. We had a few kids drop out here and there, and so we're around that 300 range, which is kind of where Michelle and I talked about 2 or 3 years ago. Where we wanted to get the program. So, I think she continues to bring in homeschool families, and we still have some families that have, said, I'm going to go back to the traditional building, and so that's kind of why we're staying around that 300 mark right now.
Chad, let me ask a question. And obviously, Lapeer Virtual has evolved considerably since the original homeschool partnership. What was our first year? How many kids did we have our first year in homeschool?
8.6.
8 kids.
8.67.
And then our second year was like 48.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like 21 the first year. It'd be like actual kids.
Actual
like we're
kids.
the FTE piece that we got was very,
So we, the growth of this, we talked to Michelle a lot about, teachers, para support, secretary support, full-time custodian, all the stuff that we wanted to have at the beginning. We're like, listen, we got to grow the revenue of this, grow the number of kids serviced, and then over time, we can. And now you look at it today, it's like 325. That's
Well, it's funded in partials as homeschoolers.
Right.
And they bought in because of that curriculum option.
yes.
And then they converted to a full 6.
If we had 1 year, and this is for Jen and Chad, if we had 1 year, we had to refine, change, or update the curriculum in some way. Has it been the identical offerings to zero?
I think each year they can.
And I will even say this. So Edison, I was talking to a teacher today, and Edison is very cumbersome. So even our genetic teachers who help grade, we have graders within our own buildings that help grade and stuff because just the overload of all that kind of stuff. Even Edison, which we brought on last year, Sean said we want to tweak the curriculum because we are getting feedback from our genetic teachers saying this exceeds even what we do in the curriculum school. These kids never reach that. And we want to start building our own curriculum that matches what we're seeing in the building so that if a kid goes from face-to-face to virtual, or virtual back to face-to-face, we have a better chance of success to where they are moving back and forth and they're getting similar curriculum. So I had a teacher come in today, and we are now turning in our own curriculum to Edison for them to embed into a specific type of curriculum for their schools. So, it's pretty, and they've never had that before. So they're having to learn too. We have all this great stuff that we're seeing what our needs are. We're saying we need to do this differently. So we have teachers that are taking that upon themselves and doing that stuff because they are experts in that field. They know what our students are experiencing in the face-to-face classroom. We need to try to mirror it as close as possible because we do have movement back and forth between the buildings.
I know, just because you're right here on this slide, did we see majority of the students from the 2020 to 21 come back into our buildings or just not come back to our district at all?
Come back into the building.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I thought. I just thought.
And one time that number was 1192. And we had kids leaving to go somewhere else now. So that majority of that 800 kids came back into our buildings. And we talk about this all the time when we were looking at, and I'll say this, in 2020 we created a full-time virtual teaching position. We had one. We kind of based it off of what one teacher had been doing out there. And then we sat in this room with all the counselors during the first week before the first week of school saying, parents didn't know what they wanted to do, and this place was packed. And we went from having 200 kids in a virtual program. Like, I started kind of mapping it out in August or in July. And we're like, okay, we're okay. Like, was it 200, 205? About the third week of August, it was like 400. Like, 2 days later, it was like 550. And we're like,
in our class size.
And the class size was shrinking. And they're like, Michelle and Kim are trying to collapse sections in elementary, especially elementary, because we had never really offered virtual in an elementary setting. And then we kind of came up with a plan like, really, this is too much for one counselor. So we should just be Jan that would see some of these families. And we just had one teacher, and
Well, Kim said you're just making a bunch of excuses.
I don't know. I think there's a real problem.
And so we all of a sudden from one teacher to, what you see up there, we have a few less teachers now.
Sure.
It was crazy. And now, as you can see on this next slide, the 2021 school year, you can see we offered a lot of courses, right? So that's how many courses we offered. You can see our passing rate wasn't very good, around 55 to 60%. Last year, when we were at that 350 mark, you can see our percentage. So back to our goal, right? Our goal was 100%. That's a pretty hard attainable goal to attain. When I look at the 72%, 76%, I see it. You can see, one, we're probably where we need to be when it comes to the number because we're going to have in there. But two is those caseloads shrunk for the teachers because we didn't quite know what that was going to look like. We just kind of threw something out there and say, teachers are going to have X amount of students. We're going to try to staff it that way as best way we can. And we came back last year and said, okay, we need to decrease that size, but the numbers obviously decrease too. We can see that relationships were built between teachers and families. And you got kids to where they need to be to where that number is much higher than it was the year before, where the caseloads were super big. And kids were falling through the cracks because parents didn't know how education was going to look during the pandemic. A lot of these families had gone through that 2021, and then we have teachers who have also, because we brought in new students. We have teachers all of a sudden who had never done the online learning either. We said, really kind of, who wants to do this? We had a handful of teachers that, okay, and that was a learning experience for them. Well, a year under our belt, I think it was a really better indication of what we're capable of doing. So, have we met our goal? No. But are we headed in a much better direction? Absolutely. Questions on LV, LVP? Or do we want to see it back? So, I guess, before future planning, like I said, we're highlighting the Bookshare curriculum. We're going to continue to increase enrollment. Sean does a great job in trying to recruit a lot of those homeschool families. I mean, we get moving back and forth between face-to-face and virtual, but she's really targeted homeschool families. And the Bookshare curriculum is one thing we've seen from families. They're using that in their own home, so that's why we brought it on, because it's a program that they're familiar with. It's a program that other partnerships or other online communities are using, so we brought that in to see what that's going to be. We will be sending out a survey at the end of the semester to kind of get their feedback and do that again at the end of the year. Continue to expand the offer and offer relay opportunities and provide structured professional development opportunities for virtual stuff. Like I said, our professional development for virtual is tailored to what they do. Sometimes what we do in the traditional living doesn't necessarily impact them as much as this type of curriculum. So we'll continue to find opportunities for them to do that kind of stuff. All right, Lapeer Community High School. So the goal here is 2.1.B, 100% students want daily access to technology for classroom use and utilize identified online virtual platforms for receiving evidence-based instruction. So I have Sarah Taylor here with me tonight. She's our interventionist and learning coach that we'll talk about here in a minute. But this isn't a bad thing. I was at a conference last year, but because community high has been an underperforming school, it looks like graduation rate, it looks like the attendance, all those type of things. We were put on a regional assistant grant the year before I got to there. So 18-19 school. Canada's still here. And so what that money is that we get money from the state, and we get assistance to the GSID, or GISD, with a couple of liaisons there that help us talk about what resources we need to make the program better. This is the last year of that grant. And then the state will go back out and identify what schools are underperforming under the 5%, and then determine, who's going to be getting regional assistance grant. And I was at a conference last year for the alternative schools, and listening to him, the guy speaking that day was talking about how one of his friends is a principal at an alternative school, and hopes to God that he never gets off of this grant, because this grant gives us money to really do the work that needs to be done. That's a big piece of it. So we're doing a lot of great things. Michelle could speak to what we're doing, but we are doing a lot of great things. As you can see, the different things that we've done over the last few years. We've talked about before, but last year, we do a summer reboot with our staff. We do every Wednesday through the month of July, and we start planning for what the upcoming year is. Last year, we did a book study on the power of a teacher, talking about how to get the mindset of our building and our teachers in a place where they too love doing the job. They want to reach out and go above and beyond. Then we have our dropout prevention at risk coordinator, which is Bridget Miller. She's paid through this grant. Last year, we brought on Sarah. She was paid through last year, so it was our learning coach intervention. We were able last year, because of the amount of money of carryover money, we were able to bring in the math interventions for most of the years, Mike Patton. We were able to attend that conference that set up. And then every year we've done some family consumer science and PLTW sessions, so our kids get about 10 hours. They work with making it nice over in high school. They get a bunch of supplies on how to cook. They do a couple cooking lessons, and then they take those lessons with them. And then they work with Patrick Lofer on PLTW stuff. So Patrick goes over and does some robotic work with our kids. So our kids sign up for it after school, and they get some cool experience. So this year, we did our summer review. Bridget's being, her part of her wages being paid on there, and we've just started doing some enrichment opportunities. And as I said, we find out kind of throughout the year, like what our carryovers. We were just told last week, 2 weeks ago, that we will have some carryovers. So Michelle and I are working on what that kind of looks like. We're talking with our people from the GISD, what are some opportunities that we can provide for our kids. So we'll talk a little bit about that here shortly. So new to Lapeer Community High School, Don Shiver retired last year. If you don't remember him, he's the one that spoke. He's the teacher that spoke at our graduation last year. Shelley Boyce, who was over at the high school and middle school last year, or at the middle school, she is now our science teacher over there. So she brings a great energy to the building where she's wanting to do a lot of hands-on stuff. She's an avid hunter. I think she was just gone over the weekend, like truly camping. Not Michigan camping, but Michigan camping is Florida Davis and getting your trailer. But she went up north.
Some people in this room do that a lot.
I was back in Colorado a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, camping's up here. This is where it is. Go to the water tower, put them up your trailer. Oh, that's cute.
Well, we're doing it next one.
Turn the mic off. Turn the mic off.
But she loves having a lot of kids who like that kind of stuff. So she's bringing in a different take into the science curriculum. Diane Bull, we haven't had a building para for a long time, so Diane is sitting out there helping monitor the hallways. Been a great addition in the sense of just kind of keeping kids really engaged. So I said Sarah came to us about this time last year, so it was a great addition to our building and what she provides to our kids and to our staff. Last year I came to you, and then Mr. Warner came to you and said, we wanted to change what our schedule looked like. So it used to be morning session, like 7 to noon, and then afternoon session from 5. We went to a 6-hour schedule. We all kind of wonder if this was going to work, because it really, really came from. I can tell you, I think it's been a great success for our kids. Sitting in front of a computer screen, for those of you guys who, unfortunately have to do that for your own job, that can be just very monotonous. It can be very just, it can be boring at times. And we saw behaviors, truly, we saw behaviors and lack of academic success happening. So that's why we kind of made that change. We've tweaked it a little bit this year to put everybody calls ICANN, we call leadership. We like that word better because I think that's what we're trying to instill in some of our kids. We moved that to right before lunch so that we had a break between second and third, like they do at the high school. We saw third hour, our kids were acting up because they had half an hour, of not doing necessarily curriculum work, and so they think they weren't as focused. So we moved that to the next side of the third hour, so we have that. I'll talk about what we're doing during that time. The other piece too is we have access to all of our teachers for the first time this year. So Amy Ostrander used to be just over in the afternoon, so she would never see any kids in the morning that left to go to that tech or whatever they do, wasn't part of the ICANN piece. This year she's at 80% and part of our ICANN, so every kid that's taking social studies has an opportunity to see her in 4 hours, and she's there for the entire day, which is a great way to spread out the number of kids we have in our building. Also a great opportunity where she's not stuck with larger classroom sizes. Leadership, talk a lot about last year we did character and leadership development. We piloted a program that we talk about those things on a daily basis. This year, I don't say we're teaching to the test, but we've seen our test results and know that some of our kids really struggle. So during this time, what we have decided to do this year is that our kids, it's kind of like their caseload. Each teacher has about 25 kids, but about 104, 105 kids are building, which is up, dramatically from what we've done in the past. So throughout that leadership time, it's a half an hour. Our teachers move around the 4 different classrooms every week. So they start with their kids on Monday, and each of the teachers has pulled a question from the PSAT or the SAT, and they're going over that for 5 to 10 minutes with those kids, and then they move classrooms so that every kid is exposed to that. So Heather Frey teaches math. Every kid in our building is getting exposed to a math question that's going to be on the PSAT or the SAT. She's going over that with Bill O'Brien's doing passages from ELA. Shelley's doing stuff from science, and then Amy's doing stuff for social studies. And then on Friday, they go back to the homeroom, and that's what we set goals for the following week for kids. So, a great opportunity. What we've talked about this week at collaboration is that other time that's happening in the classroom. We allow them to do other work, but we're looking at finding things that, or finding books and helping them read. I think that's one thing I've talked about community for a long time. A lot of our kids that come over there come over because they're frustrated students because they don't read at a very high level. So some of these others see in high school, they struggle. So Bill, Sarah, even our teachers yesterday, our collaboration, we're really talking about what can that look like. We need to find books that they're interested in, or some type of literature that they're interested in. So we're working on what that could look like for the other 15 minutes of that period, so they're reading something, exposing them, and getting them read. So what we started today was that our teachers are reading to the kids. And I tell you, a lot of our kids unfortunately had that as little kids with parents read them. And they, I think Sarah can talk about it here in a second, she wants to, our kids love being read to. Which just sounds bizarre, is that 15, 16, 17, they were never exposed to that. That wasn't a priority sometimes in their home. And so when Bill O'Brien's up there reading and giving voice inflections of the stories, our kids are focused on that for 15 minutes. It's not a whole lot, but they're being exposed to that kind of stuff. Desktops and Chromebooks, we've been very fortunate to where we've got a lot of our technology swapped out with Mike. We are still in the process of getting about 40 more Chromebooks so that we are in a much better place, but we do have 2 Chromebook books over there, or 2 Chromebook parts over there right now, so where our kids are able to kind of move back and forth in between the classroom. All of our labs have been kind of updated over the last year from what we've had in the past. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to Sarah real quick. She's going to talk about a couple different things that she's involved in and just talk about what she has seen in her 1 year of being working.
Wow, yeah, like Jeff said, I came over in October of last year for the RAG grant, and then this year I'm under ESSER 3, I believe, because of the RAG grant. So I'm excited to be here. It was an environment, definitely, that was a change from my world at the elementary and the middle school area. So I absolutely love these kids. My goal there has been very much twofold, right? Interventionist, I'm working one-on-one, small groups with kids, and we're really focusing on, from one hand, we're focusing on the kids that this motivation, they can do it, they know it's easy. Sometimes it's very easy for them. They just need things broken into little pieces, and they just need some encouragement, right? And then you've got the kids that really, like Chip was saying, it's a content, it's struggle. They can't understand the content. So that looks very different than this student, right, the scaffold. So that is my work with the interventionist, but the coach then, it goes hand in hand with the work we do, right? We look for engaging text. We try and personalize and customize the curriculum. And so my work with the teachers is really bringing in that personal touch to how do we engage and motivate the kids. And one of the pieces right now, which Shelley, like you said, we want to bring in some labs, we want to bring in some authentic learning. We want to try and tie in what they're doing with Pearson as their main frame, but then how do we integrate what's more engaging and interesting for them, because that online computer can be very boring for those kids. So that's not always the best way that they learn, so we find a way to engage them in that. But one of the things that we were working on this year is the digital transcripts. And we got this idea from the conference that we attended last year, and this is brand new to us, and the kids have been meeting with me or with Bridget, and we want them to be in control of what they've got to do as far as their classwork. We have Jeff Lorenz, who's a counselor there, that's there Mondays and Wednesdays, and this is a digital copy for them to take with them, and we sit down and we look at their transcript, we look at the credit check that Jeff Lorenz has integrated from that transcript, and we go ahead and we can see when you click on those courses, once they've passed them, it actually blacks out that class on the right-hand side and shows them what classes they have remaining. So there's 2 tracks, at community. We've got the LHS track, which is our 45 credit track, like they would get at high school. But we also have the 36 credit track, and that is to offer to just the seniors, and that's a conversation that Jeff has with those seniors once they are to a point. This is right here, the community track, and all the core classes are the same no matter what track you're on. But this allows them control of, no, I've taken that class before, I shouldn't be in this class right now. Or, oh, I want to take this class. I know I've got to do 7 credits this semester, and I've got to do 7 credits next semester, and I will graduate. I can do this. We give all of our students 6 credits, but we encourage them and we strongly suggest that they're getting more than the 6 credits, the 7, the 8. But here we had like
I get 15 last first semester last year.
first semester. And that's why this is a credit recovery program, and we want them to be in control of taking their classes and getting done and getting finished when they want to get finished. And so this is something brand new to the building. We are finding success because Jeff Lorenz's doors, no, I need this. So he's busier than ever trying to kind of handle what those kids are going to take and when they're going to graduate because of maybe something they misinterpreted or they didn't understand when they were sitting down. So that's just one of the pieces of what we're doing. We're bringing in the career presentations. We just had Job Corps in this week. We've got Michigan Works coming in. We have Kelly from Kind is in. She's trying to integrate some of the groups, and she wants their ideas on topics like lack of sleep. Kids have a lack of sleep, and they don't know how to either wind down, it's stress, staying up too late. But she has picked topics that were important to them, and they wanted to know, how can you help me get some sleep? How do I get this? So
I want to sit in on that.
I know. Yeah, and it's just, she's willing to take them to the bank to get a bank account set up. We know that we have to have that in life skills. So we've got her coming in to start those groups soon. We usually have the Army and the Navy and the college. We have Caleb Rutledge last year that we'll bring in again to talk about the HVAC. So we're constantly looking to bring enrichment and careers into the class, and that's just kind of one of the pieces that I've taken on as the coach in the building. So it's fun. I'll have to say that I've never heard of a learning coach interventionist in an alternative education ever. And it just is kudos to Michelle, the board, everyone just evaluating those positions because there's a need to really drive curriculum, drive student, and it's just been a lot of fun to kind of learn that whole environment and make some changes and just build it and grow it the way that it's just fun to kind of see what we want to do, and that's what Shed does for us. Is kind of like, let's think out of the box. What can we do? What can we do that isn't happening right now? Let's think outside the box. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
So this is a great tool. She just said we're getting our kids ready to go classroom, and our kids actually have access to this, and now their parents can kind of see that too. So it's great transparency and piece that allows our kids and our counselors, and Jeff especially, like I said, we have a version of the high school with the 45 credits for us. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to have ownership in what they're doing and what their next steps are. Enrichment opportunities, as I said, what we've been focusing on this year is a couple years ago with the RAG grant, we had enrichment stuff, and now we're trying to figure out how we do some of those things on our own. So I know the Leader Fund gave us some money at the beginning of the year, so the funds that are going to go to that, opportunities, where I told the teachers, we have money, let's think outside the box and what are some things that we can do that aren't just a one-time deal, it's something that's sustainable within our program, this is what we are. So beginning in September, we had an opportunity where the kids had to get 160% progress, and they're getting 40% of all their classes on a weekly basis in the first 4 weeks. And now have missed 2 or more days of school. And so we have 19 of those kids, which doesn't sound like a great number, but it's really, when we talk about our kids, 19 to 20 not missing 2 days of school is a pretty big deal. And so Bob Januzzi reached out to Chatfield, and Chatfield had portable disc golf bins. And so we set those up. He went out with a couple students and set those up all over the campus of the Old West High School down past the ball field. We had bought some frisbees last year because we had a little tournament with some of the other alternative schools and programs last year. We had kids go out there and do it. So one of the things we talked about with some of our RAG grant money and then some of our original money is we might not have those instead of an entire course around community high, where that's an opportunity that just isn't a one-time deal. It just becomes maybe that's what we do on Friday for those kids who finish where they need to be. We go and play at this golf where we host some of these that we're doing with our franchise last year. We're looking at bringing Don Shaver back and doing his apple press. That's always a big thing in the holiday season of Halloween. So he brings his apple press, puts it in his truck, and kids press apple cider and have kind of a great day of drinking that. You can say it's drink way too much of it. But it's a cool opportunity. And to that same point, we go buy pumpkins and kids carve pumpkins because some of our kids have never had that opportunity to carve pumpkins before. So some of those initiatives we're looking at the very end, and going up and doing a class like we did a few years ago with some of our kids. So some really cool things that we're trying to get going to get now that COVID is kind of waning when it comes to some of those events that we can go to. And then one thing that Sarah has taken leadership is that we have our kind of our marquee board that is walking into the building. Our kids now see daily announcements, and they get some of the announcements that we're happening in high school, like homecoming's coming up, and so buying tickets. But one thing that they've really latched onto is we do a top 10 leaderboard. We don't put the percentages, but we just put the name of the kids who are doing the most progress. And every Monday morning, there's a line of kids.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me like being back in college, like when your test scores get posted outside the hallway. I was always sitting in the back side, I knew mine weren't great, so but they want to see their names up there. And so, I mean, it's essentially pride.
Yeah.
They've never been told. And we've had some parent phone calls where our teachers have called parents and said, your kid's doing great. And parents are like, wasn't going to answer the phone. It's not there.
It's the LCS on there. It's like,
But it's some of that, communication with the parents that their kids are being successful.
Yeah.
And you saw before, like Jacob here on it, they love their stars. Abby, we talked about Abby, and we put stars for every class that they finish on their lockers. When they finish their class, they expect to have that star. So, it's kind of a simple thing, but yet they take a sense of pride. So,
And actually, he's one that came to my door saying, I'm in second. How did I get in second? How many more points or percentage points do I need to get to first? And he wants to know why he's down there and what he needs to get. And he was not like that last year. Last year, he could care less. He was missing lots of days. This year, he is like we want him to be one of our student ambassadors. We're going to start that group. And he wants to just really take a lead in us. It's great.
So we're starting a student ambassador group. I like student ambassador, but I like word ambassador because we want our kids to show kids when they come up with what it's about. There's a sense of pride that there's really no other program that the building's theirs. And they take, and we've had St. Paul over there the last week and a half, they're doing NWA testing with their little kids and their middle school kids. And our kids, I had heard horror stories of sometimes how our kids are back around the people in the building. And those kids come to the building now, and I think Joel over there will tell you that there hasn't been any issue because our kids understand when people come to our building, we're gonna showcase what we do here. So last slide I'll leave you with. So this is last year on data. Kind of back to what we were talking about a little bit with the community or with LP. As you can see, our percentage rates have increased dramatically. I said it. This first board meeting I had to present here, our kids were passing about 58% of the time. And there was a board member who said, is this program really sustainable? Which is a valid question at that point. Like, are we really serving our kids in a manner that's taking them to where they need to be? For those of you guys who were at graduation last year, I think just at our number overall, we had over 41 kids graduate from our program last year. We had 23 that sat on stage last year. That's one of the bigger numbers that we've had in a long time. But this speaks volumes to where our teachers are doing, what our kids are doing, truly. What our kids are doing in getting where they need to be. So 74% is really close to where we almost are in the LB world of passing classes. 4 years ago, we stood here and say that we're almost 20% higher than we were 4 years ago. I would say that we've been impressed with where we were and where the culture and the climate we're building. So this is a really proud moment when we speak to our people at GISD saying, here's where we're at, what we're doing, the resources that we're getting, how we're really making fun of that. So it's kudos to our kids and kudos to the staff that are running it. So with that, that's all I got.
Sorry. That was short. That's good.
I know, right?
Question, you said with the grant, you're hoping to see if you get more grant money back, and they look at who are the underperformers that are going to get it. I mean, it sucks. Honestly, because you go and kick butt and do great because you have the money to do it, and then they're going to pull the rug out from under you and say, keep doing it with nothing.
Right.
And so I don't understand how that really works. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's really the catch-22 with hiring personnel in particular using grant dollars because there's always a life,
Sure.
limit on that.
Yeah.
And so you run the risk of, well, listen, we're getting the money. What improves student performance is adults and more teachers and interventionists and learning coaches. It'd be great great if we buy an online curriculum and plug in a magic, button and it works, but then you start seeing the results, and then the burden then shifts to the general fund to say, okay, we continue to fund these positions where we're seeing the results in the students. So that pressure is something that Mark, myself, and the whole team with the principals, we deal with that a lot. Because especially, it's kind of like looking at gift horse in the mouth, because you have this ESSER money that inflows. We talked to Jen about, we have, looking at all the mental health support that we got with the grant dollars. Well, when you increase the demand exponentially overnight by saying, hey, districts, you got all this money to hire, school psychologists and social workers, but the supply isn't keeping up. Now you're looking at grant funded positions, the money is sitting there, and you don't have bodies trained to fill it. So it's kind of the tail wagging the dog a little bit, but yeah, you're right, Greg, it does.
It's like, hey, go out and perform, but not too well.
Yeah.
Do a great job, but not too well. So we can get more money.
I feel like it's the same with technology. The more we push technology and they get grants for technology, like you said, everybody has a piece, well, then it's still got to be supported.
Right.
Right? I mean,
and
there's
that
this-
life cycle,
Right, and so then, or you gotta replace them.
Replace.
And so that's again a future budget issue. I wish everyone was listening to this online and in person that is voting, because I think that we hear a lot about CFI. And I think we need to showcase the good that we do in CFI a little bit more, especially with the bond, because we were in that auditorium and it's absolutely awful. And I just can't imagine these poor kids here, they're trying, and their environment's not really what it should be. And so, for a good learning experience. So I just think we need to really enforce that. And I know it's late notice, but I think it'd be great if we could get people somehow in there to walk through it.
And it's,
Yeah.
Homecoming night. Open up the doors. Everybody walk through. Here's your trip to go into the gate. No, just kidding.
Make it happen.
You can do a red carpet.
You could almost call it a haunted house, but don't mess Check out our ceiling tile. It's our bathroom.
I'm just saying.
I'm sorry.
I know I heard a lot about CFI, and I'm like, really?
Summer
So
now
that
has
was
to
kudos to you
approve all
too,
Greg's
about-
comments.
Yeah.
What was
Sorry.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we will now head into our public comment for this evening. A board meeting is a meeting of school district business held in public. It is not a public meeting. The board is not going to respond to those making public comment, but will direct the superintendent to follow up with the presenter. 30 minutes is set aside for public comment, so each presenter is being asked to keep their comments brief. The board does not comment in public on any student or employee and asks the presenter to be respectful of any person they comment about. Margaret.
Am I in?
You're in.
So I started this off, I'm like, my name is Margaret Tompkins. I think everybody knows that, so.
But you said it anyway.
I know. So I got involved with the Say Yes for LCS Kids campaign for the bond this summer, and we've been working really hard to get our message out to the community. We're doing this for our kids, our schools, and the community. In the last month, we have raised over $7,000, close to $14,000 with in-kind donations, and distributed almost 250 yard signs and 20 large banner signs at strategic locations. We have our message on a large billboard at M24 in the railroad tracks. That is so cool. That was donated by Ben Warren. He gave up his advertising time on that sign for, I believe, a month. We also have our sign on electronic sign at Michigan Heating and Cooling up north of town on 24. Caleb has it up there. He said he slowed it down and everything, so that's up there for an extended period. We're ordering 100 more yard signs. We ordered them today, 20 more banner signs. And we've had an amazing outpouring of support from the businesses in this community, which really, this is one of those communities where you gotta be careful, what signs you put out and stuff like that. We have signs up at Newer's Funeral Home. Katie Spa, State Farm, E&L, the Clark Station, Girl X Bowling Alley, Jim Novak put a sign up, Ray Clemens, Beers Auto, Rob's Auto, and I know there's more that I'm missing. We've been going to the flea market, the farmer's market, downtown events like Baubles and Broomsticks. We've spoken at political party events, Kiwanis and Optimus. I even offered to go into the Lions Den with Brad later this month. We've had incredible community support and secured endorsements from Ray Clemens, former Mayor Sprague and his wife, Joan Subori, Tim Zeman, Oscar Rodriguez, the Kiwanis Club, and Sheriff McKenna. And we're really pleased with the amount of support that we're seeing. I don't know what happened in August. I don't know if people just got complacent and maybe this galvanized them to really make this happen. I keep my fingers crossed. The League of Women Voters had a registration event at the high school today for students who will be eligible to vote in November. They actually can register to vote 6 months before, but they can't vote unless they're taking that election. So just wanted to give you a little update on the campaign and let you know how things are progressing. And if anyone would like to reach out and help us, say yes or LCS Kids on Facebook. Remember in November to vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, Tina Cashel.
Hi, my name is Tina Cashel, and I'm a transportation secretary. I went ahead and I was elected to be the president for our LESP group. And this is Heather Morgan. She is now our vice president. She is a para over at Schiller. Yes. So we are both very new at our roles and what we're going to be doing, so please bear with us as this is all new to us. We're excited to say that we are continuing our Member of the Month that we started last year for our LESP group. So tonight our recipient could not make it. It was a very short notice, but we wanted to go ahead and just keep it coming, even though we were used to everything. Our Member of the Month is Sonia Johnson, and she is a 504 para and mentor at Turo. She has been with the district for 8.5 years. And all of her hard work and dedication, we're very proud of it. So we're happy to go ahead and honor her tonight. When we went ahead, Heather went ahead and got the elections, and so what they said for her when they nominated her, he said that she spends her days running, on top of providing support to many students, she spends her days running from diabetic student to another. She does an outstanding job at keeping all of her paras team in the loop with everything going on, and that she's just a great person to go ahead and have. We're very proud to go ahead and become that for her. So again, we just want to go ahead and acknowledge her through tonight, even though she was not here. We're going to go see her on Friday to give her her little plaque. Thank you for all that you do and for all the support that you guys give us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes our public comment for this evening. We will go into our reports. So first we have technology, teaching, learning, and technologies. Dr. Watson, would you please share us the committee report?
Certainly. So the committee members, April Labar, Nicole McKenna, and myself, and others in attendance, Michelle Bradford, Kim Stieperly, and Mary Moss. The 3 o'clock meeting was called to order at 3:15 because I was a little late. The committee discussed, we had field trip requests. Committee reviewed the following overnight out-of-state field trips. 7th grade band choir students traveled to Mackinac Island, May 5th, 6th, 2023. And the LHS band choir students traveled to New York City, May 31st to June 4th, 2023. The committee is recommending these trips be approved by the full board at the October 5th meeting tonight. We had an ESSER 3 update. Michelle Bradford, Assistant Super of Curriculum, updated the committee on the ESSER 3 funding. She explained the mandatory provision to spend 20% in the learning loss category and where the dollars were spent so far. In addition, she reviewed where approximately $1.2 million balance, which expires in September 2024, would be allocated. And then we had board policy and AG guidelines. Kim Sieferle, Assistant Superhuman Resources, reviewed the proposed changes to board policy 8405, environmental health and safety issues, and removal of administrative guidelines 7420, hygienic management, which addresses no animals with fur or feathers being allowed in school buildings. In addition, she reviewed the addition of new board policy 8390, animals on district property, and administrative guidelines 8390, use of service animals, and 9150A, pets on school property, which both address the admittance of animals and service animals in school buildings under certain circumstances. Kim will send details to the full board in the next weekender, and it was the consensus of the committee to recommend full board approval of these policies tonight. And our meeting adjourned at 4.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Watson.
Thank you.
Next, finance and operations. Dr. Novak, would you please share with us the committee report?
Yes, thank you. We held our meeting on September 21st, 2022, and meeting was called to order at 3. Committee members were myself, Sarah Putnam, and Brad Hagman, and then the others attending were Matt Laundry, Mark Rivers, Erica Henderson, and Mary Moss. So first we discussed the snowplow bids. District intended to seek bids, but after pre-bid meeting low attendance, we chose to seek quotes from last year's providers, requested proposals, or RFPs as we call it, for snow bids for Group A, B, and C for the upcoming year were obtained. As explained by Mark Rader, quotes were received from Emerald Lawn and Landscaping, Bill Dostick, Snow Plowing, and True Cut Landscaping. Emerald had an $1,175 increase this year for a 2 to 6 inch plow and a $1,575 increase for a 6 inch plow. However, their services would include clearing sidewalks and doing the initial salting.
Yeah, the door's gotta be open.
It has to go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have to.
Sorry about that. Bill Jostek had a slight increase, and True Cut maintained their pricing. The district will continue to explore other companies for Group A in hopes of cost savings. As in the case so often after COVID, prices or even just finding a provider is challenging. Currently, they are recommending Group A, which includes Lapeer High School, Denver, Lynch, Mayfield, and Schickler, to Emerald Lawn and Landscaping out of Burton, Michigan, for a total of $3,150, 2 to 6 inches, and $4,575 for 6 inches or more per plow. Group B, which includes the bus garage, Kids and Company Lot, CFI, Maple Grove, Churl, and Roland Warner, to Bill Joseph, snow plowing of Lapeer, for a total of $2,570, 2 to 6 inches, and $3,800, 6 inches or more per plow. And lastly, Group C, which is this building, Crampton and Murphy, to True Cut Landscaping, out of Lapeer, for a total of $685, 2 to 6 inches, and $1,070, 6 inches or more per plow. And the meeting was adjourned at 3:38 p.m.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Novak. And then lastly, we have the Student Advocacy and Communications Committee. Mr. Hagedorn, would you please share with us the committee report?
With pleasure. I was there, April Labar, Timothy P. Lipka Jr. was there, Matt Laundry, Kim Sieferle, and Mary Moss. The meeting was called to order at 3:15 via Zoom. We only had one agenda item, and that was the naming of the tennis pavilion at CFI. Kim Sieferle explained to the committee that in accordance to Board Policy 7250, naming school property, the district received a letter from District Athletic Director Shad Stilsky recommending the Lapeer Community Schools consider naming the tennis pavilion at CFI the O-Zone in recognition of LHS tennis coach Oscar Rodriguez. Oscar has put in countless hours of service and dedication to the tennis program, serving as tennis coach for both boys and girls since 1984. He continues to give back to the tennis community and is always looking for ways to promote the sport. The committee was in agreement of the proposed change. It's on tonight's meeting agenda for full consideration, and the meeting adjourned at 3:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Excuse me, my goodness. Okay, that concludes our reports for this evening. Next, we will go into our presentations. The first one is Superintendent Evaluation Formal Update number 1.
Everybody's favorite topic.
I will hand it over to you, Superintendent Wandering.
Thank you, Madam President. This will be short and sweet. As you all know, the superintendent evaluation process, like all professional staff in the district, is an ongoing one throughout the course of the year, required through state statute to provide a formal update in the month of October or November, so we're doing that tonight. As you're well aware, these are the domain areas that superintendents in Michigan are uniformly evaluated on an annual basis. Superintendent must provide evidence of successful completion or advancement toward the goals in these areas as determined by the Board of Education. This is the evaluation timeline, unchanged from last year in terms of the months. But we begin in April with the Personnel Committee meeting establishing goals for the year. It's easy to do here and look here because the board goals that you annually review are the exact same goals the superintendent is held to account for. Timeline and goals are already established by the process that the board has agreed to, so those remain unchanged. We provided an informal update in August, and the formal update is going to be completed this evening. Second informal update coming in December, and then we'll begin kind of the more formalized process in January, and completing in March and beginning again the following April. So what is your role? The board has 24/7, 365 access to this evaluation tool. Visit the LCS Google Drive. You select shared drives, click on LCS school boards, and from there you have unlimited access to all the evaluation folders. You also have, this is the repository where I submit evidence in each of the listed domain areas. You have an opportunity to ask questions or make requests of me through that process. So if you went on there right now, you would see the informal update submitted back in August. You would see evidence in certain folders. You would see our updated board goals, which you're going to receive a presentation from Michelle on this evening. That's it. My job is to put the information in. Your job is to evaluate it at your leisure. And then at the end of the year, beginning with the Personnel Committee meeting in January, we start to fine-tune and review that process. So, questions or comments on the process? I yield back the balance of my time to you, Madam President.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, we will head into the 2022-2023 board goals.
Oh, mine's not gonna be that short, sorry.
Well, points for the superintendent this evening. Listen, I think it's more important to discuss the board goals than to discuss me, so that's why.
I love presenting on board goals, and I love listening to our ability to present because it's really in action in everything that we do. So some of this you already know, but this is before our board goals that we have now. How we used to think is like I have a ton of money available, and so let's create something that meets a need and spend it. But since tonight I want to talk about MyKIP, which is the Michigan Continuous Improvement. It used to be called School Improvement, District Improvement Goals. It's MyKIP. MyKIP wants us to focus on the whole child, and that the new mindset is a need has been identified with a possible solution, and Chad spoke to, we meet with Civil and Karen in the state 3-4 times a year continuously, but they're constantly having us, and we follow this process. What you have a need that Chad talked thoroughly tonight.
what's a possible solution, and in what ways can I utilize various resources available to meet that need. So this is a continuous process all year long. So when the buildings come out and speak to you, it's been a year-long process, and it's never ending. So there are 4 mindsets when it comes to this continuous improvement process. There's and I'm going to go through each one of these briefly, but there's a continuous process of assessing your needs, plan, implement. We're constantly doing that. There's the whole child that concept that we need to consider, and then there's systems in place that involve all the full members to ensure, it's our job, the district's job, to ensure that there are systems in place and that 4th one, equity, stands along in all of them to ensure that there's equity opportunities, environments, and supports. And additionally, it's required that voices need to be a part of this conversation, and data has to be considered. So there's a lot of work that goes into the mindset for the school improvement goals. So again, I spoke briefly about it, and I talked about it this last year as well this time, but it's a continuous improvement process. You assess the needs, you plan, you implement, and then Shad's a perfect example. He has a summer reboot. We implement it, and then we meet again, and we monitor the progress, we evaluate, and assess the needs. But it's with all the goals that we do that. Tonight's presentation was just one example. And just remember the acronym MICAP, because I'm not going to say the whole thing. The mindset of the whole child is really based on those in black. Actually, it's the green area. It's the main principles. It's healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. And that's really the newest piece to MindKit. And it's just the whole child approach aligned it impacts the curriculum, the instruction, the school climate. We work closely with Jen to bring in the social emotional needs. Our perception data. I don't know if your parents in the building have experienced the perception surveys that come out in the spring. There were a lot of different questions these last couple of years based on health and safety. And it's required that we get stakeholder input on the whole child. So some of those questions we don't make up, we have. It's a systems thinking, and this is where all code comes in, because it's our job to ensure that there are systems. While the classrooms and the buildings are living these, it's the district's responsibility, our responsibility, to put support systems in place. It's curriculum, instruction, assessment, data, technology, communications, human resources, and I just recognize this. Special ed is not in there, but it's all of us. Whose interests are being served well by the organization, and how do we know what are the barriers? And you've heard us talk about we have barriers. I have some funds that I could put another math interventionist at community, but we don't have the bodies, so it's working with HR and determining how to do this. It's working with the business office to say, okay, is this pot of money, is this part of learning loss? We use ESSER funds to do this. It's balancing what the district needs. So it's just a continuous systems, building systems to maintain what we need. So with that process that's ongoing, we have 3 identified goals that have not changed. The goals itself, but the benchmarks and what we're doing within the benchmarks that you're hearing from the buildings, that does change throughout this process. So the keywords you've heard: high quality curriculum, high quality instruction, and high quality collaborative processes. Those are the overarching goals, and then in those we have strategies and benchmarks. And I give you a copy of those, the clip notes. We also have another version that has all the data in. I can share that with you or the next folder because Steve has it all. But we monitor really the benchmarks that we put in place. Like Shad mentioned today what our goal was for
course passing. And I'm glad that was an example today, because if we meet that benchmark, then we up it. Because if we're making it, then we know we can do better. So we have set a high bar for ourselves, and again, it's our achievement. You're going to hear a couple of buildings. They're all kind of fighting. Mary sends out the board goals and has the buildings pick one goal that they're going to present on. And we try to get different benchmarks so you don't hear the same thing over and over. But we were spending a lot of time on this benchmark with the essential instructional practices and the disciplinary literacy. Those are really rooted in their PD that they're providing every month. So, and I always, I'm concerned that you're going to hear the same thing over and over every time the buildings come in. But we've allowed a couple principals to present on that same benchmark, but with just a different little flavor. So just keep that in mind.
Can I just interject real quick? This was my hardest thing when I went into education and teaching, was benchmarks. Because in business, once you meet something, you just go on to something else. You don't increase it, right? That just, so I had a hard time with that. That was like really hard to wrap my mind around. So I think that's important that you said that. But how do you go beyond 100%? You just change the goal? Is that?
Oh, yeah. If it's not a goal anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Then you
So, for example, Kids and Company, we work closely with Jen and Stephanie. The first goal on preschool, it was too easy. The kids were getting their letters and sounds. It really wasn't changing their instruction or pushing the teachers to do more to get them ready for kindergarten. So we broke it down, and I'll show you the template. We broke it down by 4 different categories. What's new in MyKit this year is, and remember, MyKit was new this last couple of years. So last year we had a shared math goal. This year we have a shared ELA goal. And this is how goals have to be written into MyKit. So our goal is to be proficient 75% by 2027. I'm going to show you a few M-step scores at the end of this. We're not there, but that's our goal. We have shared, and remember with MyKit, it starts with the building's input, all the stakeholder input, but the district oversees it. So we have shared strategies and activities. We have the KUD development that the teachers work on. So, for example, elementary teachers right now have a new distant health curriculum, and they need to determine within that our first day of PD, the 24th, what do students need to know, understand, and do within this resource. It's not just the curriculum, it's not just the resource. What is a quality curriculum? You might have to pull some other things in because there might be some gaps. So, for example, our math resource is very common for heavy, and it doesn't focus on the math facts that we need. But we're not going to spend thousands of dollars on a resource that provides us what we can get from our own. We can create our own math facts, for example. So that's an ongoing development throughout the year for departments and grade levels. New last year, we incorporated data analysis days at all grade levels. That's been a big aha. Again, we assess our needs through those data analysis days, and we brought on IXL. We recognized at the secondary level that they don't give the NWA. They needed another assessment to give to determine what the students needed next. So instruction, I don't need to go on all of them. You hear about them in the buildings, but I just, some of these you're going to hear during the presentations. I do want to talk about the last bullet though on instruction. We have, because we can't get subs, we have 50% of our new teachers at elementary level, I believe. They haven't had the math PD that we've offered in the last 5 years. They haven't had, we can't get subs to do that classroom. So we've offered, we're using Title II funds to pay for stipends, and our coaches and our department leaders, they're hosting evening pajama PD via Zoom. We just had 2 last couple of weeks. We've got another one coming up. I actually have a math investigations trainer going to do a 5 to 7 Zoom with all first and second year teachers. And that, I invited about 30, and the cap was 30, and I couldn't go over it, so I had sign up, and if we have any more, then I'm going to call in the third year teachers.
So we're doing some really creative things to get the PD, because if they don't know the launch, explore, and summarize model in a math lesson, because we have this curriculum that we purchased, knowing it's really good, but if the teachers don't have the philosophical understanding for how to do that, then they're just going through the motions. Like when I started teaching and they said, here's your book. So it's really important to be that. And then Hagen trainers, the secondary folks finish their day 5 in August. Our elementary folks are going to finish their day 5 and the next full day can be in January. And then we have Hagen trainers coming in on site to go into the classrooms and work directly with the teachers in each building. So that's pretty good. And then obviously our instructional environment. Additional supports funded by ESSER, and when I talk about these additional supports, they had to fit in, and this is a great talking point for the bond because they want to know, how do you have money to do this? The rules with learning loss, and some parents don't like the name learning loss, I didn't make it up. We have to follow that rule. That came out in some of our surveys. But they call it learning loss as a result of COVID, and it has to fit within a certain definition of like assessment. We were able to purchase new updated benchmark assessments for all elementary, which are also old and afforded with general funds. So we utilized the ESSER guideline of assessment to purchase new benchmark assessments. We got 120 real-outs for every elementary out of that Lansing Canal, and again the new reading and writing curriculum they're using. Summer academic camp, trail intercession, all of these things that you hear, either in the subcommittee meetings or in presentations, but this is all funded out of us. You guys have presentations, so I'm going to talk about everything. Additional supports funded by us that are non-learning loss, but still support our board goals. We've got a Schickler behavior interventionist, Clever badges for K1, so this one will log on every time. Graphing calculators at the high school that we couldn't get with general funds. School STEM colleges, and I don't know are all these still. And social emotional therapists, and then the guardians and teachers can see what the students are actually doing on their computer while they're in front of the classroom. And now we've got another pot of money that we're applying for. It's called GEAR. It's the Governor's Emergency Education Relief. It's about $150,000. We are, again, it has to fit within the learning loss guidelines. So we want to continue the trail intercession because honestly we had such a good turnout with the trail intercession that the ESSER funding line item, we ran out. So now we want to keep it going because it's good for the families, which is one of the support for the families. And I don't know what the other learning loss requirement is, but we want to fund that this year. We want to actually fund the secondary guided academics out of this fund because we are kind of moving, and I don't think I've talked to you about this, Mark, but
But it's hard to say no when it's being recorded. So good luck.
But some of the extra funds can only be used for so long, so we're playing back and forth ESSER and this $150,000 that we're applying for. And then the elementary Fontes and Pinnell, the 4th and 5th grade writing mini lessons, when we purchased the K-5, the 4th and 5th grade were in publication, so we couldn't purchase them. So we want to get those when they're published, and that'll be this year. And then, again, like I said, we've got about 50% of new teachers in their elementary, and they have classroom libraries, and they need books.
And folks, I really, tongue in cheek with this joke about the moving parts of all these grants. I really can't stress enough from a Cole perspective, with Mark's role and Michelle's role in particular. In the 3 different buckets of ESSER, there's money identified for a variety of challenges that districts face as a result of COVID. So, for example, there was money given to address security, money to address more what we would call operational needs, and then things very specific to learning loss or academic supports. The shell game that's being played right now, just to be fully transparent, is we would love to take all the money that we got from ESSER and talk about nothing but things like this. Help kids, attack learning loss, hire more bodies, buy the things that we need from an academic and instructional perspective. However, we know that some of the things we identified in the bond are not wants, but needs, and that we've committed to the community we're going to do. So we are holding back some of those ESSER dollars that are legally allowed to be used for some of those things we've identified as security needs, should the bond not pass. Because we can't afford to deliver those things out of the general fund without taking significant hit to our overall budget process. So we don't have the luxury of taking that money and saying, here you go, Michelle, do what's best for kids based on the data, hire the people, get the equipment, get it done. So she and Mark are continually, which is a really fun process to watch, going back and forth about, okay, hey, does this expense qualify? What bucket can I take it out of? When does it need to be spent? Is this an allowable expense? Mark doing his job, which is always crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and make sure that the appropriate bucket is taxed. But we would be disingenuous if we said that a great deal rides on whether the bond passes as to general fund dollars we're going to commit to the things that we said that we had to do, identified in our buildings, in this type of grant dollar, these types of grant dollars.
I'm going to add another layer to that. Currently, we have a 6-8 social studies pilot taking place because the books were so bad that they weren't bound. And some of the discussion items that or the reading material were in the books, it's not politically correct, or you can't say that in classroom anymore. So we have to look at a new resource. So that's taking place, and the curriculum comes with an online component, which comes with a yearly subscription, and it's not cheap. Then that will come out of general funds if we can't, I think we're applying for something else to try to capture some of these curriculum costs. We have a 9, you're going to see our 9, 12 math scores are not doing well, so we have another pilot coming on, and our subscription's out, and that resource that we're using, we're no longer publishing. So that's another 6-year commitment, and again, we're coming out of general funds, so we need to start thinking about that. I do remember the old days when we had angry services. Don't want to be that. So this is just an overview of our M-STEP, SAT, and SAT scores. It's here, and we always compare ourselves to the state. We always want to be scoring above the state. We're blue, the state's red, and it starts, you can see we tested in 2017, 18, 19, no testing in 20, 21, and then 22. So the green arrows, and then we got the red arrows are we above the state or are we below the state? We look at a lot of other things, but for board meeting, I just wanted to see the overall picture. So you'll see in 3rd grade ELA, it's above the state. Went down a little bit from last year, but that cohort last year, and you'll see that cohort this year in 4th grade, they are like 60% every time. This group is amazing. So anyway, 4th grade above the state, 5th grade above the state, 6th grade just above the state. Same thing for, and then 7th grade. That's the arrow should be switched over. And then 8th grade below the state, but close.
And you also want to see if the trends are consistent with what's happening across the state or if it's an outlier.
Yeah, I want to bring that up too when we talk about math. Yeah. So again, this is 9, 10, and 11. You have the data points, you can get it closer. Math is concerning, but I want to tell you something because we had investigations 6 years ago. Again, real common
our base. We do need to do another math pilot, elementary level. But when we implemented that pilot and adopted that resource, those were the days that I could get 15 first grade teachers to that building and we'd give them a full day PD on that resource and what to do, how to launch explore somewhere, bring them all in. I can't do that anymore. So like I said, we're trying to be really creative on how we can provide this PD to 50% of these new teachers have never had any of that training. So when we talk about, okay, if you see the success hasn't changed, the kids have changed, the staff has changed, the types of PD that we can offer have changed, and then we've got COVID. But the trends, when I did this presentation pre-COVID, we were moving in the right direction. We were trending in the right direction. And then, so when we talk about resources, and we need another resource, you have to consider all of those things. Does that make sense? So anyway, again, and we need to pilot something else in the middle school too. So when I say pilot, I want you to think of money. And I'm trying my best to see what resources we can use to do that now. This is math at 9th, 10th, and
11th. Being a K-12 assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction of a district this big is an unbelievably large job. Michelle does a fantastic job with keeping all this straight. A lot of moving parts, as you can see, but this is why we're all here. This Chad presented, what Michelle presented, that's our core function. The rest of this stuff is our job to figure out how to remove barriers to make sure that Chad and the principals can do their job, and Michelle can do hers. And that's Mark as a support role, me as a support, Kim, that's our function. And Jen in her role as special education director, we, business, HR, superintendent, board of education, these people got to do all that work because they're doing the real work in this district, without question.
And we appreciate every single one of them. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will head into our action items this evening. In our consent grouping, we have approval of minutes of September 7th, 2022. Second reading and adoption of board policy 8460, COVID-19 workplace plan. Out-of-state trip requests, 7th grade band choir students to Mission Island on May 5th through 6th, 2023. Lapeer High School band choir students to New York City on May 31st through June 4th, 2023. First reading of policies, policy 8405, environmental health and safety issues. Policy 8390, animals on district property, new policy. Are there any consent grouping items that anyone wishes to have removed? Okay, hearing none.
Motion of the reading of the minutes, we waive the consent agenda items, we approve this presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a support. Mrs. McKenna.
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn.
Aye.
Dr. Watson.
Aye.
Mr. Lipka.
Aye.
Mrs. Labar.
Aye.
Dr. Novak.
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion passes. Okay, next is consideration of naming tennis pavilion at CFI.
I'll motion that the tennis pavilion at the Center for Innovation property be named the Ozone.
Okay, I have a motion and support. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. McKenna?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mr. Lipka?
Aye.
Mrs. Labar?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion passes. And then lastly, the wrestling cooperative resolution. You guys okay?
We don't. Yes.
We don't have it.
Yeah, is there a resolution language for that? I don't see.
Probably not one. I can copy the wrong one.
That was a late minute addition, you guys got the email.
Yeah, we got the
We
email.
just
Yeah,
got
we
it,
have the agreement.
wanted to squeeze it in because,
Just wanted to make sure we got the language right. when we-
yes.
The motion.
Okay,
We can just. I have the agreement, but we don't have it.
We don't have resolution language.
So I would
Do we need
suggest,
I do it right here, I got it,
okay.
right? Resolve it, Zummer, and, right? I can see.
Okay.
Alright, so can we go ahead or do you want to do the discussion
We can do discussion afterwards.
or?
You
Okay,
can
okay.
make the motion.
Okay, so I make a motion that the wrestling cooperative resolution be approved as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a support. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. McKenna? Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mr. Lipko?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBar?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion passes.
Thank you for your flexibility on that. Actually, I have a board question for you.
No problem. Okay, next we have board member communications. Any communications for this evening?
Today was count day. Happy to do all of it. I know that there were some buildings that offered incentives for their children that attended. I know that Wyatt over at Rolling Warrior offered some incentives to the kids for wearing spirit wear and also just to be there. So do we have any preliminary numbers on how we did today?
We do.
Would you rather not share?
Are they too preliminary? I think maybe for that
Turn the
discussion.
log first, and we'll get back to you.
Well, I just think all of the fun initiatives that the principals and teachers did in order to get the kids there in the seats today so that they could count.
Going to school with Wyatt should be incentive enough for those young.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He's a trip.
I'd just like to thank all the presenters. The one thing that, the common goal to all this is all about the kids, and which is kind of cool to see. And yes, I like to listen to you talk. You talk my own.
It's going to be reflected in this year's evaluation.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Smitty and the football players and coaches because, as Matt knows, we talked before every football season. I did not expect them to be 6-0 at this point in the season. Pretty brutal schedule remaining, and I hope to see everyone in Grand Ledge on Friday, and then we play Clarkston, and then of course our arch rival shall not be named in the season. So keep rooting them on, and hopefully we'll see you out there on Friday night.
And go Michigan.
What was that? I'm already hearing you.
I also want to commend Margaret and the Say Yes for LCS campaign. It was such a wonderful feeling to drive down on 24 yesterday and right there before the railroad track, that big, huge, beautiful sign. I wanted to take a picture, but I didn't want to get a ticket. So I'm so glad that somebody else was able to get a photo of it. I believe it was Jared, and Margaret shared it with me. And I am just blown away at the community and the business support that we are getting for this. It is a topic of discussion for many people that I talk to, and it feels really good that there's so much support for it, and keeping my fingers crossed.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I'll hand it over to you, Superintendent Walker.
Thank you. I just want to recognize Chris Hall, came in the room, our team coach, was on a bus this morning, 5:30 in the morning, on the way to Kalamazoo for a little tennis competition. Thought there's no better way to end the day than an LCS board meeting, but obviously Chris has been instrumental in the recognition that has gone Oscar Rodriguez's way. Obviously Chris is a very, very big part of the greater Lapeer tennis community, and is going to carry on the legacy of Lapeer tennis. And we really appreciate all of your efforts, not just with the teams, but obviously in doing your part to honor Oscar's legacy, because he's a very special person to us. We know to you personally and professionally. And tonight's vote to rename the pavilion as the Ozone is step one. Step two will be a more formal recognition, including an invitation to Oscar. We'd love to include you in that as well, Coach, and get the kids here. We all know how much Oscar loves being the center of attention for things like this, but thanks for all you do as well for our kids.
I watched that video online, and the seeing broken up was just the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that was really
It's
heartfelt.
got 13,000 views right now.
Yeah, that was
Oh
heartfelt.
man, you're viral. You're viral.
You could just see his heartfelt nature. I mean, just the nature, and I thought that was genuine.
He's passionate about it.
Yeah, but you were too. You were broken. I mean, that was really cool. Like,
Chris, if you coach another 40 years, we'll rename it the Chris Zone. Just 40 years. Just
40 more years.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. You'll be fine.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Superintendent Andre. With that, can I have a motion?
motion to adjourn.
Support.
Mrs. McKenna? Aye. Mr. Hagno?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mr. Lipka?
Aye.
Mrs. LeVar?
Aye.
Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam Cooper?
We made up.
Meeting adjourned.
I'm not kidding. I always catch the
The transition, sitting to standing. Are you? Knees are cracking.
On a daily basis. Good night. I was just saying, maybe one night I'll get the better. In such a long time.
Great, congratulations in order for you. Thank you for the confidence.
Well, that's for
That's probably the third time in my life I've ever had Starbucks. My girlfriend thinks I'm nuts. She gets a moment in time. Yeah, I'm
Grandma says, what do I get? I have no idea.
yeah, because that's what she always gets me, is some like vanilla. Because what I do is when I just get it at home, it's just flat.
Within 3 days.
I'm
done.
Yeah, you'll be around. I know, thank
This school. Are you going in there?